Welcome. Nice to see you here. Today I want to talk about why I decided to stop dating, take a break from it, and go to creating. So stay tuned. I have been abstaining for a while from relationships, from romantic endeavors, because I felt like there was something missing. And I spent way too much time trying to understand men. And it just took so much away from me. I fell down this rabbit hole of trad wife and, high value woman, high value man. I fell down that, alpha male. I fell down that rabbit hole and it was so detrimental to me. Like, it was wearing down my spirit just trying to understand these dynamics. It was taking away from me because I just felt like there was a better use of my time. Of course, there are periods of intense learning in our lives, and that was definitely one of my intense learning periods. And I'm so glad that I went down that rabbit hole because it has carved me into the person that I am today. But the whole conversation around decentering men, but it's like the more I learned about decentering men, the more men became the center of the conversation. And in my psyche, I began to pedestalize certain men, high value man, whatever. I pedestalized them, and pedestalizing a man, ew, what a shame. But we're here now and we learned. So yeah, I took a break from dating because I'm just like, something is missing and it's something that I need to take care of before I start dating. And it was finding myself more. And I've always been a very transformative person. I'm not the same person that I was 6 months ago. There's a rebrand. There's a rebrand that happens pretty often with me, and it's intentional. And so sitting with men and pretending to play nice was very exhausting. Like, the emotional labor that goes into it, and a lot of analyzing them and seeing if their intentions were pure. I mean, like, obviously they approached me for whatever reason. We know why. But it's very exhausting trying to sift through the lies, analyze their body behavior, analyze if their words are matching up, asking the right questions, looking for answers and stuff. But it's like, all this time this is happening, it just felt off. I want you to think of this analogy here. When a young girl is young, she thinks of her wedding day, right? She thinks of her wedding day. A lot of people feed her that idea, your wedding day, your wedding dress, your wedding cake, and all that beautiful stuff. But how often do you hear about a young boy talk about his tux or the details of the cake or the limousine that he's gonna be driving his wife in? Like, yeah, it's crickets. And so I think that's something that we really need to think about, is that society pressures women to have families and to be a second place citizen and to put other people's needs before her own, or else she's selfish, which at this point is not even a derogatory term. It's like, thank you, I'd rather be selfish, because when you live under patriarchy, when you are trying to perform for men, you'll never win. But that's why we're supposed to create communities for women, by women, for women, because it's a lot better that way. Or even to fulfill our own needs versus trying to fulfill a need of what the patriarchy wants from us. I hate that damn word, patriarchy. I'm so tired of hearing that word. But it is so relevant to our everyday life. So I remember my last date, I was just kind of like, I want to go home. I want to just produce my music, and I want to make art, and I want to read. Like, I just want to be by myself. So yeah, I remember telling him that too. I was like, I'd rather just be at home, to be honest. Yeah. By the way, I'm a producer and musician artist, so check out my work. Follow my page. It's Sedona. I'm on all major platforms. Hopefully you enjoy my music. days are fleeting, and time doesn't exist when we're having fun. Under the sun, under the sun, the days grow longer, laughter fills the air. Under the sun, now we know is this moment. So yes, I've always wanted to be interesting, and even outside of relationships, I wanted to be interesting. And who knew that finding yourself through interests and hobbies would cultivate a sense of, wow, she is interesting. She is really that girl. Like, she has her own thing going on. And it's that love of self and your own interests that captivates people. So then you might be asking yourself, what does stepping away from dating have anything to do with being more creative? Those things can exist at the same time. They can coexist peacefully. For me, though, as I'm talking about my journey of my self-reflection of where I am now and how I have gained a sense of self through taking a break from entertaining and playing nice with men, has really made me lock in and focus more about pleasing myself. And the person that I am before was very people-pleasing before dating anyway. So someone who knows themselves very well and is very stable in their sense of identity, I feel like wouldn't really get much from this video. You know what I mean? Because they have made it to a place where in peacefully do the two, dating and also making art. But me, I feel like I'm beginning my life. I'm really starting to understand myself. I mean, I've just gone through way too many transformative moments in my life, and I just feel like I'm constantly finding myself over and over and over again. And it's really hard for me to engage in a relationship or to know who I am if someone is catching my attention. That's just how I feel. It is very possible for the two to coexist, but in my world right now, I'm definitely taking a break. It's like oil and water. Like, it's just not going to work for me at this particular moment to mesh those two worlds together. But for now, I'm okay where I'm at. But all that time I spent getting ready and listening to other people's problems and kind of sacrificing time away from my work and my home life and keeping up appearances and masking, I just felt like I was taking away from who I was as a person. And I feel like taking a pause from that has helped very much in where I am today. That all of our lives, I feel that we've had to come from a place of trying to please others. But I am taking that time now to please myself and finding what I'm interested in, finding myself through my work, expanding my consciousness, expanding my knowledge, expanding my understanding of life. And I don't really want to report to someone. That is why I stopped dating and threw myself, thrusted myself into the realms of creativity. So one might be asking, what is creativity? What is that? We keep talking about it. I guess I could read off a dictionary what it is, but it's so much more than what it says it is in the dictionary. It's unpredictable, it's messy, it's unorganized, it's exhilarating. Creativity knows no bounds. I think that art within itself is very subconscious. And through art is where you can find so much about yourself. It really forces you to dig deep within yourself and uncover truths that you might not even know were there to begin with. And I think that's so magical, that whole process of digging into your own creativity and what that means for you and what you uncover along the way and what you discover. I think that it's often misunderstood. We think of art and creativity as like making a novel or a masterpiece or a symphony or a choreography, but it is so much more than that. It's not really about even using your logic, it's about tuning into your intuition. And I think that is so vulnerable, and being in that state of vulnerability opens you up to so much more beautiful experiences. So not only through art do we express ourselves, but we also explore different worlds, different dimensions, and it is almost a medium to share with others, like, this is what's happening internally in my brain and I want to share it with you. And I think that is beautiful. That is beautiful. David Lynch talks about catching ideas. What are ideas? Where do we get them, right? He says that catching ideas are almost like you have a line and you're fishing. You're fishing into a cosmic ocean. This ocean that we speak of is sort of like the unconscious mind, the source. And the bait is patience, waiting, openness, receptivity, and you just have to wait until something bites. And that thing might not make sense to you at the time, but you don't think of it very critically. You take it, you refine it, you add to it, and take away things that don't make sense. And now you have a seed. And with this seed, with you having this idea, the universe responds back. It gives you more ideas. It gives you more ideas and more ideas until you have something a little bit more substantial, something more that you can build off of. And you just have to trust the process and know that it will become something majestic, crafted from you and your hands and your mind. An idea was given to you from the source. It trusted you to make it happen, and you made it happen. And that is the beauty of the creative process. So Rick Rubin, I love him. He talks about creativity within itself being a way of living rather than like, okay, I'm gonna go to my desk and I'm gonna be creative now and I'm gonna flip a switch and I have my creative switch on. It's really about how you are perceiving life. His book, The Creative Act, he says that creativity is a way of being. It is how you show up in the world. Of course, you can have moments of inspiration, but that's not what this is about. Creativity is about finding the beauty in the mundane. It's about finding inspiration in the mundane, or just finding inspiration off anything. It could be going outside and looking at the leaves and feeling inspired. That is creativity. It really is. And then you putting that inspiration into your work. And David Lynch, I like how he worded this. Like, how do you get more creative? You don't get more creative. It's not something that you get. It's more about tuning into it. So just like being conscious, get more conscious. It's there the whole time. It's about accessing it in certain places or certain states of mind by going to places that bring those emotions out, those feelings of inspiration. Like if you are a religious person, you go to church to get a more of a feeling or a connection to God. And that's one way to feel more connected to a certain source. Or if you are wanting to be more creative, then you go to maybe an art gallery or you go to the library and you look at works from maybe some of your favorites and drawing inspiration from there. There is no getting more creative, getting more conscious. It is about, like, you have it along with you this whole time. It's about removing layers that are there to access these higher levels of consciousness or creativity, if you will. I'd like to talk about the source. This isn't going to be a religious topic. Although if you'd like to make it religious, that's your prerogative, if it fits your narrative. But the source, besides religion, is the ultimate pinnacle of life. It is where all the creations come from. It's the reservoir of life. But this specific source that I'm talking about, this is where all the creative ideas reside. Everything resides. The inspirations, the artistic expressions, this is where they all live. And you can have access to this source by tuning in, just as you would a radio station. You want to listen to your favorite radio station, you know where to tune in. This one's a little bit harder though, because it's not a physical thing that you can see or touch or turn the knob to. It's a mental, a spiritual thing. But what I will tell you about this source, it is the same source that moves the planets, the same source that guides a newborn growing in the mother's womb, the same source that grows your hair and nails, the same source that puts the whole world together. It is the all. Rick Rubin says, think of the universe as an eternal creative unfolding. The world pulses with productive energy, and everything that exists on this planet is driven by that energy. What does this mean for artists and creatives? It means that being creative is not something that you manufacture. It's not something that you force. It's really a way of tuning in. And David Lynch is a big fan of transcendental. I have a very hard word say. I have a hard time saying that word. Transcendental meditation, and he explains it beautifully. Is that this is the way to connect to this reservoir of ideas, to life, to the very what's underneath the illusion of what we see in front of us. That carries me on to my next topic. So how do we access this source? So yes, transcendental meditation, I have yet to do it. I mean, I've done a lot of meditations to just lose myself in, or just to, take a break, looking inward. But that is not really where I get my connections or like my downloads. I just kind of have them happen to me. I get them a lot through prayer. Prayer is a great way to connect to the Most High. It's not really a religious thing. Prayer is about connecting to your innermost desires, your highest self. Your highest self is in connection to God. The best thing that you can do in connection to Source is really quieting the mind, slowing down your pace of thinking. Because I find that when I'm driving, when I'm in the shower, when I'm busy, but like zoning out, is when I get most of my downloads. So quieting the mind, just kind of being in between states, daydreaming, this is where a lot of the downloads come from. This is where I feel like I can connect more to the highest of high. And of course, we cannot forget about embracing idle time. In this society where everyone is, their phones are constantly going off. I just got a notification. Someone liked my stuff. I need to Google search something. And then instead of sitting with a thought and completing a thought, like you're on to the next thing, and you're like literally going through all these apps just to feel something. And I think that kills the creativity so much, because idle time is a great time to just sit and think. And that's why I have started little DIY projects, so that I can keep my hands busy, so that I don't have to use my phone, because it's instinctive. It's very hard not to doom scroll. It's very hard not to reach for your phone. It really is. And additionally, I'd like to talk about journaling. Journaling has meant everything to me these last couple of years. I've had a aversion to journaling for many years. It's like, when you're supposed to do something, but you just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, because you just know you're supposed to do it. But anyways, it was weighing heavy on me that I wasn't journaling. So I began journaling and just talking about what I wanted and what would make me happy. And some years ago, I wrote, I want to be an artist and I want to be a singer. And now I am doing that for myself. I didn't think much of it at the time. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like I'd see it and I'm just like, oh, whatever. But journaling things down, like writing what you want out of life is a beautiful way to show you what's going on internally, and it's up to you to take action on it. I have been doing the morning pages. Julia Cameron, I believe is her name, author of The Artist's Way. She prescribes 3 pages every morning to just write whatever. It's a brain dump. And it's almost seen as kind of like an unclogging of pipes. Like just to get rid of psychic residue, start the day off fresh, get off whatever's on your mind, whatever. And then really go about your day more intentionally. And I feel like that starts the day in such, like, let me tell you the difference between doing that and then going about your day, like waking up or whatever. When you're writing down, okay, this has been bothering me, I need to take care of this task and get it done because I know that this is due, and then I have to do this, and John asked me to help him bake a cake for his mom's birthday, and just writing about whatever. Like, it doesn't even make sense. It's between you and yourself. It's private. It's literally just pouring whatever comes into your mind. It doesn't even need to make sense. But with time, it becomes more coherent, and you'd be surprised what you find out. But before, I would just get on my phone and start doom scrolling, okay? Don't judge me, okay? I'm already judging myself enough for it. But when I started doing my morning pages, I would write down what would be inspiring to do today. What can I do towards my creativity? And sometimes I don't go in there thinking, okay, I'm going to write this down. It just happens. And in my morning pages, I'm like, I'm going to start making YouTube videos again because what am I doing? I have so much to say, and making my music is just not enough. Like, I just need to keep, I'm a very expressive person, you know? And so when I get on my phone after writing a morning page, like the doom scrolling don't hit the same. Like my interests have shifted completely. And it's more about, how can I become more inspired? What can I do in my state of inspiration? What is it that I want to tackle next? How can I be better? And I like that. And also, I read in the book, it's like a collection of psychologists, but there was a passage in this book. It's called How to Meet Your Shadow, I think is what it's called. Yes, it's How to Meet Your Shadow. There's a passage where this psychologist is having a back and forth conversation in his own journal with himself. And it's like you ask a question and then you answer it, but the answers are coming from a subconscious part of you, and it gives you the answers that you need. Carl Jung, Jungian technique, and it's called imagination. Goal is to bring unconscious fears or anything unconscious to the surface and discussing with certain parts of yourself and bringing that to light. It's like having a conversation with your higher self, and your higher self is like guiding you to where you know, it's giving you a nudge. And the more that you sit down with yourself and go back and forth and have these discussions, the more you really find out about yourself, where you want to go. It really just recalibrates everything, your whole life, which direction you're going. And it is that serious. When you're not intentional with your life, it's so easy, because if you're not living in your own story, if you're not creating your own story, you're living in someone else's, unfortunately. And that is such a big responsibility, but that's your responsibility to bear if you want to live a certain life. Additionally, when it comes to creativity, you have to learn to let go of control. Stop being a perfectionist. You will get ideas sometimes that don't necessarily make sense. Although, if it does resonate, if there's a part of you and even an inkling that's like, yo, we need to see what this is about, explore that idea. It might not be perfect. We're not shooting for perfect. Your version of perfect is not another person's version of perfect. There is no such thing. Maybe in your mind, but why don't you take this idea that has came to you, nurture it, see it through, add things to it, and if you don't like certain parts, take it out. Here's a little antidote. I don't know how to say that word. I'm more of a reader. But here's a story, let me tell you. Michael Jackson was known to literally jolt out of bed or whatever he's doing and go right into the studio. And when asked why he did this, he'd say, "Yeah, better get started on this idea now before Prince gets this idea and acts on it." And as true or false as this might be, it really puts into notion that ideas are alive and they come from a source. And that if you don't act on them now as they come to you, someone else will receive that idea, and they might have that ability to be like, you know what, they might trust it. They might trust it, act on it, and who knows what that could have done for them and their career, all the beauty that has happened to them because they said, hell yeah, I'm about to take action on this idea. And not only when do you say yes to an idea are you saying yes to an idea, but you then become strong. You have a stronger tie and connection to the source when it comes to creativity. You are saying yes to more opportunities that are in relation to this idea. You're saying yes to more ideas to expand. You're saying yes to God. You really are. You're honoring God because this messenger, this idea came to you, and it is an act of devotion to see it through. So what do we do once we get an idea? Me, I like to carry around a notebook. I actually get so sad when I don't have my notebook with me because I'm like, what if I have an idea? But thank God I have my notes app. If I have an idea, I'm writing it down immediately. If I have a tune in my head or some words that I want to put in a song, I put it in my voice memo app immediately. I don't spare any time. And we're very good at collecting things, but I feel like it's good to also have a system to go back, look at what ideas have came, because if you don't use them, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like it becomes somebody else's in that moment when you don't act on it. And this is not about competition or anything about it being competitive. It's more like there is a time limit for these things. They come to you, and if you don't act on it, you know the rest of the story. So create a system to go back, look at what ideas have been downloaded, make an action plan. You want to trust your instincts. Although they might not be the best ideas at first, it is just the seed. It is a small puzzle of the full puzzle. And if you trust it, and if you play around with it, if you toy with it, if you tweak it a little bit, keep adding things to it, more ideas will come to you, and it becomes a snowball rolling down a hill. We need to refrain from being perfect and have an understanding that imperfection within itself has its own perfective qualities to it. I like when things aren't perfect. I like unique. Does that mean that I'm not a perfectionist? I am at most times, and it is very debilitating. But I know that if I hold myself to a certain standard at all times, especially when it comes from an idea, and I say no immediately because I don't see the full picture just yet, I am stopping something that could be great, that could be perfect in my eyes. So don't be such a perfectionist when you're catching ideas. Additionally, yes, we have to trust the process. We must have trust in the universe. We must have trust that it will unfold in a beautiful way that we might not even expect it, that our minds could not have the capacity to see the beauty of it all. And it all begins with you trusting that it will become something eventually that will please you. And that's all that matters. Trusting the process. Because once you trust the process trusts you. There is a certain vulnerability in all of this. And it teaches you to be vulnerable, and it can be a little daunting. But the rewards, let's think about that. Even if it's external or internal applause or whatever, if you're doing it for yourself, there is a reward at the end of this, and that is satisfaction. It's so very important to have a childlike wonder in the creative process. that if you lose your childlike awe to life, the whimsy, the silliness, the quirkiness, then you become a full adult. And I don't know, I just feel like that's when you lose your spark for interest. I'm reading a book right now called Wired for Creatives. Recently just started it yesterday, and one of the first chapters is, I think it's called Playground or Imagination or something. So the creative of Atari would always spend time in his imagination. And could you imagine if he didn't? Imagination is crucial for us, and children are the ones that spend so much time in imagination. If you are losing that connection with your inner child, you better go outside in the swing set. You better go outside and look at the woods and look at the leaves and examine them like it's your first time. We become so callous as we grow older, the less that we are more childlike. And it's so important to remain childlike in the way that we see the world. Of course, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have boundaries and keep ourselves safe, because there are environments and spaces and people we should not have that childlike wonder with. But when it comes to imagination and play, definitely go on that playground. Do what your inner child always wanted to do. Get you the little Hot Wheel that you wanted. Get you the American Doll that you've always wanted. Now that you have American Doll money, you better get on Sims. Keep that alive. Keep that the wide-eyed you alive. And it interprets in the way that you view the world. It's all related. So what if you don't know how to play the guitar? What if you don't know how to draw? What if you don't know how to be a photographer? What if you don't know how to dance? Well, that's the beauty of it all, is if you have the desire, it will carry you to great lengths. If you want to play the guitar, there are resources on YouTube. There are resources everywhere. There are books. And it might sound so overwhelming because you are at the bottom of the mountain looking at the very top of it. And then you get so overwhelmed and you're like, I can't do this. I'm too old for this. It's too late. It's never too late. When a child looks at the piano, he plays, he learns the piano. But if you show the piano to an adult, he will go, well, I don't know how to play the piano. That's the difference between, someone who wants to learn versus someone who's just like, oh, it's too late. There's no point. That's why I'ma still learn another language. I'ma still learn how to play the guitar or whatever. I'ma still learn because I know deep down that's what I want to do. But I'm not going to make the excuse of, oh, it's too late, because 5 years from now, if I still have that same desire and I have nothing to show for that desire, that will be a problem for me. That will be a moral issue for me, because all this time I've been dreaming about something and I've been making this lame excuse. These things are teachable. Skills are teachable. And there are stages where you learn, where you are just a beginner. And then with time, with practice, you become a master. Now, when you look at a baby try to walk, you support the child. You're like, oh my God, look at you go. And then the baby falls. You don't go, oh, that dumb baby. That dumb baby doesn't know any better. No, you give them grace because you know that they are in the beginning stages of their life. They are not certain how to move, how to stand. They're not confident yet. They don't have the muscles for it yet. There's so many factors. You give the baby grace because you know it's the beginning of their life. And as the baby learns to walk, he begins to walk amazingly, and then he begins to run, and then he begins to dance. And throughout this time, you are supportive because you understand that it is difficult in the beginning. The baby never stops. Be like the baby. Keep going until you can eventually walk, until you can eventually run, until you can eventually dance. So, you do not have to be perfect now. That is not the requirement. The requirement is that you show up. 10 minutes a day is all that you need, and those 10 minutes will add up very quickly. They will. In a month, you will see great changes, maybe even more inspiration to continue to learn for longer periods of time. Every expert was clueless at some point, believe it or not. They learn from the bottom up, they learn from scratch, but just because you can see them at the finish line doesn't mean you don't know the hours that it took to even find the courage to apply themselves in the way that they did. And don't let the fear of failure or the lack of understanding discourage you. Let that be your fuel. Yes, alchemy. Anyways, this concludes the video. Thank you so much for watching. And I would love to hear about what resonated with you most in this video. Comment below. And please give a like. Give a like. I'm trying to become more consistent with YouTube, but seeing that people are actually watching my stuff low-key gets me really giddy. Like, it really got my toes over here throwing up gang signs. Like, yeah, so subscribe, like, comment. I will see you next time, and cheers.